I love Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. I love them too much. This scares me. Actor being in the void. They went to an in-person callback and the casting directors were zooming in from another room in the facility. How do you own your audition and own your space and own your power? Be the air conditioner, not the thermostat. All right. Welcome to the Actor's Guide to the End of the World podcast, where we talk about acting in Hollywood in a way people understand. I'm Econ Song, and this is...
Econ Song. Sorry, Rían Sheehy Kelly.
Yeah. Sometimes we forget. Follow us wherever you find your podcasts at Actors Guide Podcast. We're on all social media at Actors Guide Podcast. Follow, share with a friend. Why don't you?
So, even social media that doesn't exist yet. We're on Splunk.
Yeah, exactly.
And Viper.
That's a great name.
Watch this space, Splunkers.
So we have a lot of big names in the news. Ben Affleck just sold an AI company to Netflix. We have many stars signing the block the merger, the Paramount-Warner Bros. Merger petition. So is this a good thing, bad thing? We will discuss. But now, a word from our sponsor.
Does your pet get the yips in auditions? Does your little friend literally shit the bed at callbacks? Welcome to the Royal Academy for Dramatic Barks, where your puppies will be trained by acting legends Ellen Barkin, Mark Ruffalo, and Sir Patrick Stewart. Sign up today.
So let's start off with a petition is circulating to block the Paramount-Warner Bros. Merger. It just surpassed 2,000 names, including those names are Florence Pugh, Pedro Pascal, Edward Norton, Joaquin Phoenix, Ben Stiller, Kristen Stewart. And this was initially released April 13th, and now it just passed 2,000 names. This merger is going to be a very long process. It has to pass antitrust regulations. If you hear that there is some gossip saying, hey, it's not the smoothest transition when you have meetings with, David Ellison and the takeover. That being said, this is going to be a very long process. 2,000 names.
A lot of names.
SAG-AFTRA is going into negotiations with the studios. And meanwhile, this is happening. Is this like a small little civil war inside the Hollywood community? We'll see.
I thought Damon Lindelof's post about it was really great.
Mm-hmm.
So Damon Lindelof, he posted it on his Instagram. And he started off by saying, when I was asked to sign a letter that openly opposed the sale of Warner Brothers to Paramount Skydance, I felt two things. The first was that, yes, absolutely, of course I opposed it. The second was, oh shit, I'm afraid to say so publicly. Fear is embarrassing. Nobody wants to be the guy puking in the boat and saving Private Ryan. They want to be the one storming the beach. So why was I afraid? Some implied retaliation, being put on some list of rabble-rousers, getting kicked off the beloved Warner Brothers backlot I've called home for the last 15 years. And then he goes on to talk about how he knows David Ellison, and they produced a few things together not long ago, and found him to be bright, ambitious, and passionate. He loved movies and trusted the people he made them with, but still. Better not to risk it. And he was talking about the risk of opposing this merger and saying maybe it was a pointless gesture. It'll evaporate. The news cycle will move on, and he won't have been publicly on record for opposing it. But then said that, and I love this, because Hollywood, believe it or not, is a blue-collar town. It's thousands and thousands of grips and gaffers, drivers and decorators, builders and boom operators, camera teams and caterers, and they're all about to get fucked. Talks about how Hollywood mergers mean fewer movies and fewer TV shows, and that means fewer jobs. When two storied backlots are owned by the same company, the outcome is intuitive. One becomes a ghost town. I'm scared, but I'm not a ghost, and a fight is already lost if it's never fought. So I signed, proudly. And then says he understands why people have not. He goes, trust me, I'm more of a puker than a stormer, but these boats are heading for the beach whether we like it or not. The only thing we have any control over is what we do when we get there. So I thought that was a beautifully put, honest post about standing up for things even when it might hurt you professionally. Because the other side of it is it hurts everybody if you don't. Potentially. So I thought that was a very brave, honest way of putting that.
That's incredible. What a statement. I got goosebumps. That was beautiful. We'll put the link to that in the show description. But I did hear Damon Lindelof. Also, he was one of the original signatories. So let's go back. I see here Adam McKay, Boots Riley, Bryan Cranston, David Fincher, Denis Villeneuve, Glenn Close. So these are heavy hitters. Jason Bateman. So the few that did not know, a lot of that's behind this petition and this protest is political motivations. The idea that Paramount, which is primarily very conservative, in a way, Trump leaning. They are worried about the massive size of this merger, but also the political implications.
Yeah.
Put that in that conversation. You got Ted
Yeah.
Danson, we got Mark Ruffalo, Jason Bateman, Noah Wiley protesting this.
I'd just say for those who don't know, Damon Lindelof, he's a big producer who's produced Watchmen, The Leftovers, Lost, Star Trek Into Darkness, Prometheus. Like he's a big time producer. I said director, I meant producer. So that's a big name. That's a big name of that, among all these other big names. But I just thought that was a very honest, open statement.
And also the fact that he worked with David Ellison in the past.
Yeah.
The landscape of Hollywood right now, where Hollywood can't really escape politics right now. The takeaway from this, and like in Damon Lindelof's statement, is what is the workforce? This is primarily a working class town and industry, and that's going to take a hit with such a huge merger. We'll see how this petition builds steam, but this is a great segue because next up, Ben Affleck just sold his AI company to Netflix. Ben Affleck, we brought him up numerous times because he is, I do feel like he's one of the smartest guys in Hollywood. He had very fair and articulate statements about AI for the past handful of months. It just so happened he also was developing an AI company since 2022. They also are they're ahead of the curve. I mean, when I say they, I'm Ben Affleck, and you could put Matt Damon, and they have a Hollywood production company as well. But this is kind of news. There are people at Netflix that did not even know about this deal. Just so people are aware, it's called Interpositive. It is, I'm afraid to say, it's kind of brilliant. And we know that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have a partnership with Netflix. Their last movie was with Netflix, The Rip, on the platform right now, which was very successful. So the price tag for selling his AI company was $600 million to Netflix. This is not just open AI, put something in text, and you churn some video out. This is specifically to aid what filmmaking is. It's a model that is geared towards an individual production, meaning that the footage that you shoot for an individual production would be able to create a model for that production to help with, say, lighting scenes, recreating backgrounds, and streamlining that process.
The way I saw it described was, I think it was the producer, Patrick, the guy that does the former producer, does the videos on Instagram, described it as, he broke it down and basically laid out what Ben Affleck says it will cost, saving costs. I mean, it's huge. It's like, for below the line, I think it's like 40% on production design. 30, they're not the exact figures, but it was big percentages across the board. But the way he described it was, you would shoot scenes in front of a gray screen, which is a new term to me. I haven't heard of a gray screen, but and the AI model would adjust the lighting, it would put in the backgrounds, it would add background actors, that kind of thing. So it would effectively do what we're sort of afraid AI is doing, really. You know what I mean? Which is make a number of positions redundant and cut the workforce of a number of different departments. That was my reading of it. I could be wrong.
I was hoping that they were going to use real locations and real backgrounds, but you're right. A lot of this model actually is shot in a gray box. They call it the gray stage workflow. How much they're shooting on real locations, we will see. And this is part of the danger. I mean, we're looking at the numbers here. It was believed he did a test shoot in 2023, I believe. He actually did this on a test film. And it is estimated that he saved $7 million on the production. This is not, it's redacted. So this is not public what that film was, but this was in the work. So
it doesn't say where he saved it from. It just says 7 million across the board. It doesn't say exactly from where those savings came.
Okay. So the departments that were highlighted in the documents, it says here a conservative range of principal photography savings would be 10 to 20% of total production costs. Main locations, they have an estimate here that it might save 40%, art department 30%, set dressing 40%. But we know that those departments are going to get hit. Yeah. We have visual effects costs might be cut 50%. We have savings here reaching 70% for background actors and stand-ins. So there you go. It's bought by Netflix. It's not planned to make a mass-produced consumer model for this. Netflix is going to have the capabilities as they keep working on this company and this model to use it for Netflix movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes all the sense in the world.
Financially.
I exactly. As far as the pitch for Ben Affleck's AI company, to hear his spin campaign, and I do call it a spin campaign because we are hearing a lot of people talk about these AI tools as, making it still about humans and human focused. He says that it's to connect to the filmmaking aspect, focusing on the performance, the intention, and the humanity, and removing the technical stuff that gets in the way. Now, that sounds like a great idea, but he does not mention all the humans who are going to be out of a job when they cut locations department, set construction department, and visual effects. So that's why I call it a spin campaign. But hard not to love Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. Like I said, I do believe that they're some of the smartest guys. They had for their last movie with Netflix, The Rip, they had a success bonus. I believe it did hit a success bonus that if the movie got watched a lot, the crew and below the line would get a bonus, which is rare. The crew does not get residuals. This is a new thing. They are very much in favor of the working, protecting the production crew, protecting the crew and the workers. But here we are. This AI company with $600 million.
The crew who lost their jobs as a result of the AI company still get a bonus?
Yeah, exactly. What is your bonus on the jobs that you lost?
Yeah.
I if this isn't clear, I have a confession. I love Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. I love them too much. As much as we talk about these stories, this scares me.
Yeah.
Because the people who are the big players are making out like bandits. You could throw in the Paramount merger, the jobs that are lost, the layoffs. It's increasingly clear there's not a lot of celebrities and big names that are going to protect the working class actors or production.
Well, they were two that I actually thought would. I was surprised to hear this. Like, I was surprised that, because they had been working. I mean, it had, from what I can remember, 16 employees or something, the company, and that they'd been kind of working on it in secret for a while. So it was a small company, kind of a bit under the radar as far as I could tell. But how would I know? And I've been in favor of everything that Ben Affleck has said, because he always seems to he seems to have a really good eye for what's coming down the road, and a good assessment of, particularly when it comes to like technology and how that's going to affect the industry. The argument that this is going to make filmmaking better is, I guess it's going to be cheaper, but at the expense of what? It's going to be cheaper. Yeah, at the expense of it. How do you find the balance between making filmmaking affordable, but also like not squeezing people out of it? So like it's a sustainable profession. If you squeeze out all those jobs, then there isn't anything left. You know what I mean? It's not. There's just less and less to go around. So it's a tricky one, because technology is going to move as it moves, as it always does. People are going to employ technology. People are going to try and save money. That's how companies operate. More and more and more, they try to create value for the top, and that generally comes at the expense of like the middle. You squeeze out the middle and the bottom. Exactly. So
to add to the mix, and this is just this movie has been talked about a little bit because it's primarily AI made. There's a $70 million AI made movie with Doug Liman, starring and collaborating with Casey Affleck.
Oh, Killing Satoshi. It's a thing about, yeah, I see it. It's about what's his name? Satoshi, the Bitcoin guy.
Maybe this was this was in the works for a long time. Maybe they're using some of the technology. We don't know. It's starring Gal Gadot, Pete Davidson. This is a big movie, AI made. And it's heading to Cannes. It's heading to Cannes right now. So Isla Fisher's in it.
But when you say AI made, what do you mean? Like, is it a
great question? It's almost exactly how you were describing the gray screen.
Okay.
It was. It says here the indie film. It's funny how it's an indie film. The indie film may use AI to adjust some performances, and that actors would perform in a markerless performative capture stage and not in any locations using new AI technologies.
Here's the first paragraph of the article that I pulled up on the Wrap. A $70 million movie about the mysterious creator of Bitcoin quietly wrapped principal photography in London last month in a grey box that could have passed for a storage facility. 70 million. How did it cost so much? that's a lot of money for money for a movie. Like, where does that cost go on? Like,
this is the Chris Rock line that never dies. He was hosting the MTV Movie Awards, so just give you an idea. This is going back. Blair Witch Project, low budget horror film came out. It cost $30 million. Chris Rock's line is, "Where'd all the money go? Someone's running around with $29 million in their pocket." You basically have 5 kids running around in the woods with snot coming down their nose. Anyway.
But that's like, what an argument against AI filmmaking. They're like, this movie's great. It's going to be shot in a grey box. We're going to save so much money. It only costs $70 million. For what? Sandwiches? Yeah, that's wild. And I'm sure a lot of that went on actors' salaries because it's, there's high profile, the big names in there. But like, how is that helpful? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. One last little bit as we wrap up our AI thing here. I just saw this story. It just so happens that USC launched an AI institute for actors. And, talking about the workforce, we're talking about the middle class. Let's talk about all the younger generation of filmmakers. Where are you going to get mentored? Where are you going to learn the trade if there's going to be fewer assistants, fewer hands needed, right? You're basically having adults and expert supervisors handling AI agents and using AI to assist them. And obviously USC is a historic, iconic film and also dramatic arts institution. They are creating and making all these tools available using AI for their filmmakers. Mm-hmm. When you talk about the new generation, we hear all these positive things about how the Gen Alpha is not on their phones as much. They are going out to see movies in theaters. They're seeing movies more than millennials, perhaps, right? There's a lot of positive things about, hey, Gen Alpha is protecting their peace, and good God bless them. And so it's just kind of interesting how you have this generation that supposedly is so offline, and yet they're begging us, or they're begging them to use AI tools. Yeah. And maybe it's great. A lot of filmmakers and a lot of people coming up are going to be able to utilize these advantages, and then we'll see if it carries. But who's going to learn real filmmaking? Who's going to learn creating a huge production or a set like they did back in the day, or like Guillermo del Toro does for every movie?
That's it. I mean, it does, I think, probably diminish people's overall filmmaking experience. Like you said, about upcoming directors and dealing with locations and all of the cool stuff that comes out of limitation as well, I think. Because if you have a perfect set where you can do anything, I think that in some ways it's almost harder for filmmakers because they don't have to work around the limitations of whatever physical space they're in, which I think often leads to really cool and interesting stuff. It's like they say, pray for mistakes, as an actor. Like, there are no mistakes. Sometimes that's where all the cool ideas and inspiration and stuff comes from. So I think if you have a sterile set where you can do anything, in some ways that's almost harder, because it's all it's generated.
Anxiety inducing.
Well, yeah, it's I think you lose something with that. You lose some connection or touch. Yourself, like, it's easier to act on a set than it is to act on a self-tape, because in a self-tape, you're creating the environment yourself in your imagination. And on a set, you have physical things to touch, and you can be in a space and you can like pick things up, and it just helps your imagination, I think.
That is so spot on. That's great. You're completely right. As someone that does indie, low budget run and gun things, the limitations are the best thing for you, because I couldn't even imagine you could put this anywhere. You could put this on, Neptune's moons. Like you can get lost. Well, literally lost in space. Anyway, this is a perfect segue So there was a conversation. So that was word around town, everyone. That is a perfect segue. We had a conversation pop up in class this week. Speaking of this actor being in the void, just an anecdote. They went to a callback for a commercial, and it just so happened that they were at an in-person callback. Yet the casting directors chose to be on a monitor on Zoom in the room, and the casting directors were zooming in from another room in the facility. I know that that's weird, but actors, you probably have seen something like that before. Basically, your callback was in an empty room with a computer, and the casting was directing and talking to you through remote, even though they were in the same building.
Was there any reason given for that? I missed the beginning of that story in class, so I didn't catch
it. It got lost. And part of the reason why I'm bringing this up, in class, we have things that are shared, and whether they're gripes or there's something that this is something I'm dealing with. This innocuous share ignited an entire conversation between the teachers, us as actors. Everyone was chiming in. And so it's when things like that pop up, I'm like, there's something here. Let's talk about this. This is the new age of where we are in filmmaking. A lot of this is, how do we adapt to this? And there are some people who are a little more adapted than others. We don't know exactly why, but I will guess that it was easier for them to be on one Zoom call with, say, creative directors and producers. And instead of having a hybrid, it was easier. Let's all be on Zoom, and then they're acting. I know, of course, it does not sound great for the actors, but just thinking logically, we all know that if you've been in hybrid situations, some people are in person, and then some people's on Zoom, and you're watching that event or you're participating in it. It's messy, and I'm not defending them. The bigger part of this is, how do us actors adjust in this digital age of feeling in the void?
I think, well, in that situation, I mean, why even bring actors in to a room to do that? Have them Zoom at home. You know what I mean? Now, I know there could be an argument made for the fact that you can control the environment if you set it up and you know exactly what you're getting. But still, I mean, it seems if you're not even going to be in the room, if you're going to be in a different room, don't make actors come all the way in and park and, go into his room to effectively just be on a computer. Because it's not like Zoom callbacks are unusual. They're common now. So I just don't understand why you would make somebody go to a casting office to stand in front of a computer. They could have done at home with the same result, I imagine.
As someone, and to be super clear about this is commercials. As someone who auditions for commercials a lot, I personally, for me, and this is also this is not about one person's situation. This is about this situation. What would I do? What do I feel comfortable? And you realize every actor is different.
Yeah.
I will gladly, just because of my own experience, I will gladly run to any office if you're having an audition versus Zoom. I don't care, or I'm not as sensitive as, because to be fair, this person was newer to Zoom teaching, was newer to Zoom auditions, and so on and so forth. So there is that sensitivity that we'll get into later. But personally, for me, 100%, there's a different energy in, especially commercials, which are quick, which are really director and feedback dependent.
Mm-hmm.
I would gladly be in your office empty by myself with the possibility of you being able to give me direction. Sure, you could do that on Zoom too, but I feel Zoom in my apartment doing a callback I feel like that's more disembodied. So this is my particular range on the spectrum compared to this actor. But she started out with this story, and then next thing you know, people were talking about, well, this is how I feel in self-tape era. This is how I feel in remote learning. Here we are in a Zoom acting class. Obviously I'm a little biased. Leslie probably does it really well because she's been doing it for, 5+ years now. I have seen all sides of it. The beauty of this conversation is the one who brought up the story, we never heard from them again. So next thing you know, every actor said, well, I mean, here's how I look at it. And all of it was very constructive, but I thought it was freaking hilarious. Our podcast is one of the few places maybe we can have a clear conversation about it. And I thought there were really interesting things. Anyway, the thing that came to mind was it's not about adjusting to self-tapes, I think. It's how do you get your power back as an actor?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of any room that you walk into, whether it's a empty room in a casting office, whether you're doing a self-tape or you're doing a Zoom callback in your freaking bedroom, how do you own your audition and own your space and own your power as an actor? I thought a lot of it was a good reminder that since we're in the self era of self-tapes for 6+ years now, we don't remember the muscles that we needed to train when we were going in person, controlling the room, owning the space. A room is room for non-actors. It's basically when you go into an audition in person, what is the vibe that you're bringing into the space? Are you coming in? Are you scared? Are you anxious? Are you are you desperate to please? That's kind of like the room. What's the energy? And so
Yeah.
my parallel for this was the phrase is be the air conditioner, not the thermostat. So you don't want to be matching everyone else's temperature. You want to be in control. And so that was a muscle memory that we needed to practice. And if you went into 1,000 in-person auditions, you would have practiced that muscle memory. You would have practiced, hey, this is how I have to deal with. I thought it was really difficult back in the room where, let's say your anxiety's skyrocketed. Let's say that you're driving through crazy LA traffic, trying to find parking, and you plop in there and the producers are all on their phone, or there's 12 producers on a couch, or the cast director or the assistant is such a bad reader that you can't focus or not laugh. So all those things we had to control and take the power back. And so what is it like on, say, Zoom remote learning? It's us, and we were really fortunate, and to be honest, that's part of the practice. We're in Zoom class. And you could say, well, I don't feel like I can connect through the screen. And Leslie specifically admitted that she has no problem connecting. And I'm not going to lie, I actually never felt like I had a problem either. And that's probably part of the reason why I was on Zoom class for so long. And also, not surprisingly, we have a video podcast on remote. This was a muscle that was built up, and here we are. So if I was holistically going to say, I think practicing that muscle and practicing that little danger and getting more experiences, we actually might be able to adjust to that.
Yeah, I think so. I think there are some, I agree with you. I don't have a problem connecting over Zoom, but I do think that there are certain technical limitations of Zoom. For example, if you're doing a scene, there is a slight delay, which you have to legislate for, because if you're trying to keep a scene pacey or you're trying to use stickamithia or something, you do have to take those technical limitations into account. Well, I think the room thing is interesting because I wasn't always great at going into rooms. I think some of that comes with age and experience. Some of that confidence comes with having worked a bit and understanding things. There are times when it's caught me by surprise. But I will say, and my pitch in that conversation was this, is like, what if you went in thinking everybody was massively on your side, Because why not? You know what I mean? If you go in adversarially, you're liable to create that environment. Like you said, if you're going to be the thermostat or the AC, go in assuming that everybody's on your side. And I think I think it's a fortunate trait of mine, born out of, like I said, blind ignorance, that I go into every room thinking everybody wants to be my friend. You know what I mean? Like I go in with the sort of, and again, they may not at all. They may not give a fuck about me, but I just go in with that sort of mindset because I like making friends. So I sort of go in with the attitude of a Labrador. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited to meet people, and I like that aspect of it. It's the thing I love about jobs. It's the thing I love about the intensity of acting jobs and sets and stuff, is that like I always assume I'm going to make friends there, and I do. and I maintain those friendships generally, you know.
I love that, and I think that's part of the conversation. And I'm glad, because obviously I knew that about you, but also it's like I have that in common, and I always felt that way. The tricky part about this is we also happen to be lucky. That's great for us. All
What do you
those
mean by
people,
lucky,
like,
though?
because this is however you found that is kind of the key. But like you just said, you just happen to be kind of luckily born with it in a way. What about all the people who drastically, whether it's personality or temperament, desperately do not feel that way? For you and me to break down, well, it's kind of easy because, in general, I like, and I want to say, Rían, I actually feel exactly the same way. My point is if we were going to talk about the practical aspects of, because what you're essentially saying is kind of like, it's fuck it. It's dare to
Well,
suck. It's a mentality thing. And we're glossing over all the years of experience and competence that you have. And, I'm guessing obviously you've done self-work. I know personally for me, I feel very much the same way. But if you actually said to someone who is fighting anxiety, fighting wanting to act and succeed so desperately, and you tell them, well, just dare to suck. There's nothing
I don't think that's
concrete
what I'm
about
saying, though.
that. Right. But what I'm saying is that's how I hear it, because
Okay.
because all the people who it doesn't come easily to, it would be really interesting to break down how you and I have been able to find that. The comparison would be like, I'm trying to learn how to swim by watching Michael Phelps, which is probably really good, but he's actually a physical freak who was 1 in a billion who was born to swim. What if?
In terms of what, though?
Yeah.
Like in terms of going into the room, explain that to me. I don't really understand.
Yeah. I'll break down for you. Learning from Michael Phelps, who's naturally gifted, to learn how to swim, versus watching the person who it doesn't come easy and watching how they train. So, and to be honest, I'm ripping this off of Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is an incredible author, podcaster. He breaks down how really high performers do their thing. He was watching how people train and study, and he realized, I don't want to follow the most fit jack guy in the gym. I'm actually looking for the most out of shape guy in the gym, and I'm following what they do, because whatever they do and whatever their methods are must be really good. Because I don't want to follow a guy who's naturally gifted.
Yeah, and I get that. I get that. But I think as regards to this, I think this is just one layer of a lot of different things. Like that's just how I view the world. I think I make friends because I think I genuinely really like people, and I like hanging out with people, and I like chatting to people. So I'm interested in people, but that's just one. That's the top layer. I'm not saying I don't go into rooms nervous. I'm not saying I don't go in. I have to be so prepared before I go into that room. Because otherwise I feel like the ground underneath me is shaky. I don't go in with just fuck it. You know what I mean?
Right. Rían, we're not talking about acting here.
No, I understand. I understand,
Yeah,
but I'm talking about going into. You're talking about controlling a room. There's not just one aspect to that. There's not just going in with personality.
I'm talking about how you're able to go into a room or a party or life with this mindset that is very open and which is very open and free.
Sure, but as it regards to acting,
no, I'm not talking about acting anymore. So let me expand it for you. Whether it's going into a audition or going into a sales pitch. Let's say I'm pitching a TV show. Let's say I'm pitching and I'm selling a gym membership. And I have a feeling that extroverts and people who easily enjoy groups of people and being out in public do better in those situations. And it helps because of their personality and their mindset. So I think that's kind of where I'm starting at. So aside from being really good as an actor or being really good as a salesman, I'm saying that our personality lends itself to, it's easier for us to have this kind of open mindset. And And I'm just saying that because you and I happen to have the same very similar mindsets on this. I'm actually speaking for all the actors who say, well, this is really hard for me. And whether it's they don't go into an audition easily with that mindset, what would you say to them?
Meeting people in the world, it's two things. It's being interested and it's listening. And it's just listening to people and being really listening to them and being interested in what they have to say, finding some interest, even if it's a topic you don't give a fuck about, they say. And I also get a buzz out of making people laugh. So, if I'm listening to them and I'm sort of sizing them up and I'm sensing who they are as people and I'm hearing what they say, if I can get a laugh out of them, that's a big win for me. So it's just being interested in people and listening to them. And that's anywhere. If you go into a room full of producers, you know what I mean? Take the focus off you, because I don't, it's not like I don't suffer from anxiety. I have massive anxiety at times. I really do. Like I get, overwhelmed, and I'll start to believe that like I've pissed everybody off somehow and everybody's mad at me. It's not that I don't deal with those things too. It's just that I'm very interested in people and I like listening to people. And that's where the less I can be in my own head thinking about me, the more I can be on you, and that extends to acting. If I can actually be listening, if I'm prepared enough and I feel ready enough and comfortable enough, and I can let myself believe the given circumstances, the imaginary circumstances, and I can really listen to what I'm being given, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm listening as hard as I possibly can, then I'm okay. Then I don't need to worry about how I say lines or how I show up to a party or how can I impress these people, because it's not about me anymore. So that's what anybody who's struggling with that, take the focus off you, because that's the hardest part. Listen to other people.
I love this. And that was How to Win Friends and Influence People with Rían Sheehy Kelly. I thought that was great. And I think that was really, really spot on. So I think that's a good reminder. I mean, that's just a good mindset in general. I think the original question was more about feeling in the void with Zoom and remote auditions versus a general mindset of going into the room and auditioning. But I think that's a good general reminder just for anyone, really. So this came up recently, and nod to our friend of the podcast and former guest, Tim Davis. I was talking about a story where, I was working on a show and I conflicts came up and I kind of had to choose life over, the work, and I don't regret it. And he used this phrase, irreverent reverence. And he was using it in my case, and I really take it as a compliment because I completely get what he was saying. But this idea of not holding on so tight, this industry, this craft that we love, putting our lives on hold, delaying having kids, settling down, however you want to cut it up. At what point do we stand up for ourselves and choose our lives over that? And we talked about it a lot in the past, actually, this idea of holding on too tight. And he used the phrase irreverent reverence. This type of actor confidence that is still very ambiguous, that's kind of part of this conversation. Also, what comes to mind is this irreverent reverence. It's Jacob Elordi's audition advice. I know that we're contractually obligated to mention Jacob Elordi once every episode, but this is not about the bloody, you're covered in blood thing. That's for another time. But this legendary old audition advice: kick the door down, say "fuck you" very politely, and leave. I mean, he didn't coin that. That was passed down from old acting teachers. But if that's not irreverent reverence, I don't know what is. There's something to it. There's something to it. The other thing I will add to this is, and this is, I think it was attributed to Robert Redford, but I remember early actor advice was, his best actor advice, or one of his actor advice was have a life. Now, that's very wise, but that's not easy. So you tell a bunch of people to go have a life. You tell a bunch of actors to have a life. It's a lot of what we talk about where, hey, are we chasing after every audition, running around like a chicken with your head cut off? Having a life takes time. Sometimes it takes experience, and sometimes it takes, beating your head against the wall or maybe shooting yourself in the foot.
But I think one thing that helped me with that, because I was very bad at that, I didn't really have much balance at all, was the artist way, was being creative for the sake of creativity, doing stuff that I enjoy, finding fun things. It forced me to kind of do that because I was relying way too much on acting to be my creative outlet, hobby, profession, lots of things, social outlet. I put it right at the center, and I think I made it almost too important, Whereas I find that when I fill my life with other stuff, it actually makes that better. It makes the experience of that better, and it makes the doing of it better and more
That's amazing.
enjoyable.
Yeah. And that's a recent thing. You've been doing that the past few months. We talked about it in a previous episode. That's a great point. I was gonna say, looking back on it, I thought I was going back recent, but I think the pandemic drastically changed me.
Mm.
That was the moment where I started spending more time with my family, and a lot of that was just dumb luck. They're from the East Coast. I was from LA. I was like, it was already a blessing. My parents were healthy enough to even visit them during the pandemic. Going to them during the pandemic from LA, flying when everyone was scared of flying. Um, I, and I'm not gonna lie, this is how asleep I was. Spending more time with them, whether it was cohabitating or however you want to call it, I felt like I was getting to know my parents for the first time.
Mm.
I thought I was like, I didn't know how, and I always loved my parents. And I was very fortunate. I didn't realize how cool my parents were. Like, I'm not even joking around. Like, they turned the dining room into a ping pong table. Like, I didn't know my dad reads poetry at night. This is like, I'm like, who are you people? I'm not even joking around. And my dad didn't let me read like books growing up that weren't math books, and he's reading poetry at night. And I'm like, who are you people? And I realized that was a small little snippet. And, since the pandemic, we Zoom every weekend. We do exercises together, and we catch up. That's one small snippet of, I didn't realize how lucky I was. I was luckier than I even thought I was. And so, talk about having a full life where I realize how fortunate I am. And that's that changed a lot of my recent years. And that's only going 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So this idea of, having a life, whatever that means to you, it takes time. And sometimes when you realize it, we're fortunate enough to get to the other side and see what that is. And instead of praying that the acting gods pick on you, I desperately need this job, I desperately need this paycheck. This audition is not the most interesting thing of your day. And it just so happens, I can safely say, these auditions are definitely not the most interesting thing of my day. This is not a test. This is not a facade. But I will add that to the mix that took a long time. Took a long time. And then you're doing months of Artist Way. You're doing your charcoal drawings. Soon we're going to be displaying your artwork all over the internet.
Yep, I'd like.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I took it.
It's great. Well, that's it. But it is taking your power back, and or not taking it back, but just realizing the power that you have and the position that you're in. I was thinking about it this morning, actually. Like, I was like, because I do hear a lot of, and I understand it. I'm not rubbishing it, but a lot of people talk about how things have changed and how this industry has changed and how it's kind of unfair, and we have to do this and we have to do that. Sure. We also get to I get to be an actor in America. I get to be an actor in Ireland. This week I was on German TV. That's ridiculous. I was on German TV this week.
Oh, that's amazing.
Apparently 5 million people watched it. They watched this.
Whoa, that's cool.
That's wild.
So your German show came out, and you just heard about it?
Yeah, I was on Thursday on German TV. This is a show that was shot in Ireland called Der Irland Krimi, which translated means Irish crime. But it was dubbed into German and shown on German TV. And fucking that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's mental. So I do realize that no matter what the conditions of it are, and they're not fair, but nothing is. And like, you still get to do this cool stuff. And I still get to, it's put me in touch with so many great people, And I think that's what I really enjoy about this career. It's what I continue to enjoy and appreciate more as time goes by. Like, we get to be at a cool acting studio, and like, you know, Leslie has been massively influential on my experience of acting and my approach
Yeah,
to
and
acting.
myself as well.
Yeah, and put me in touch with a whole host of new people that are now really good friends, and I feel like I'm part of a community. It's great, you know what I mean? So I have to, when I do start worrying about AI and, you know, this is happening and residuals and streaming and blah 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 blah, I still get to be in a creative job, and I still get to do it. My experience of it is up to me, really, you know. So
I love that.
that's
I love
where I
that.
find that power that you're talking about, you know.
Yeah. Gratitude is big. In all honesty, I actually felt that this week. I was feeling run down, a little anxious. I was busy doing something, and then it just clicked. I was able to lock onto that. How lucky we are.
Yeah, and I'm aware as well. I don't want to sound preachy ever. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you should do this and you'll be fine because look at me. It's not that. It's not. It's just I have to remind myself that this is the reality of it. This is what I get to do. I've chosen this path, and we get to do this, and it's cool, and it's weird, and it's fun, and it's full of oddballs.
You know, having gratitude, I feel like is work. I feel like that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, hidden gems.
Hidden gems. I've got my hidden gem for this week is Econ's parents. They're cooler than you think. Do you know what? I don't know how hidden these gems. They're not hidden. I just want to shout them out. There's two, and I say this not as a horror fan because it scares the bejesus out of me. But there are two Irish horror films coming out. Lee Cronin's The Mummy, which just came out this weekend. Lee Cronin is a really talented Irish writer and director, and also Damon McCarthy's new movie. Damon McCarthy is a director who directed the movie Oddity, which was a scary horror. His new movie Hokum, which is coming out very soon, which looks fucking terrifying, starring Adam Scott, cast by the wonderful Emma Gunnery, good friend of the show, and made by Tailored Films, who are a fantastic production company, who also produced that German TV show that just showed in Germany this week. So there you go. There's my little circular hidden gem for this week. And I actually ran into Adam Scott randomly a week or two ago, and I said, hey, I just want to say, like, I'm really looking forward to Hokum. I don't know if I am, because again, it's probably going to scare the shit out of me. I'm not actually looking that forward to it, but I believe it looks creepy and weird and scary. But he's like, oh, cool. He's like, I hope you like it. And I was like, yeah, it looks really scary. And he goes, it is. I was like, all right,
cool. All right. So my hidden gem, I got to go to this event for a pizza restaurant opening up in the heart of Hollywood, Romanaccia Pizza. It's on Instagram. It has a good amount of followers already. So interesting enough, this is not just a random media event. I realized that my actor friend that I know from Leslie Kahn was connected to this pizza opening. This is literally real Italians opening up this restaurant, traditional Roman style pizza from Italy. And I'm not going to lie, it was freaking amazing. The food was really good. It's in the heart of Hollywood. It's, for those that are in LA. So that was a sneak preview, and they open this weekend.
What's it called?
So Romanaccia Pizza. And they got some stiff competition because they got Da Michele in Hollywood too, which is from Naples.
Yeah, and Domino's, which is everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of competition for pizza in LA. But either way, the event was great and the food was terrific. So definitely check that out, and good people behind it. There you go. That's the episode, everyone. Enjoy. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.